Okay, so here's the thing. I'm not even sure I'm going to post this. I don't even know if it's going to be coherent at this point. I don't even know if I'm going to like my face enough to post it because already I don't like anything that's happening. But I don't really have anyone to talk to about this anymore. And some days are worse than others. And I can already predict anyone who actually looks at this, if I do end up posting it, I can already predict all the comments that are on the negative side or the ignorant side or the less informed side. I'm sick of feeling like I don't belong in public spaces because I'm not just a trans individual, I'm a non-binary trans individual, which means anytime someone tries to assume my gender, here come all the insensitive pricks with the don't assume my gender jokes. It's not a joke. It's not funny if you are transgender. Here's the problem. No matter which gender, there's only two in most people's minds. Whichever one they shoot for when they see me in public, neither one is going to be correct. And I miss kind of the beginning of when I first figured this out. I lived 18 years of my life as a cis female, which blows my mind because thinking about it now, I don't know how I went so long thinking of myself as a woman. In fact, I never really did like concretely think of myself like that. I guess objectively, when people called me a girl, I was like, sure, I guess is what I am. But I wish we could go back to the beginning where I still felt okay with people assuming guy, because at least then they weren't automatically assuming girl. And for me, that was winning because at least they weren't. I can't explain it really that well. It seemed like I was breaking what lines people saw me as feminine, and I was breaking the lines of feminine and masculine enough to swing over to the masculine side. And then when that quickly became old, there was no gender that people assume is going to be the right gender. So every time I go to shop for clothes, which I did today, I end up going in both the women's and the men's sections because sometimes there's shirts that are way nicer and way warmer in the men's sections. Sometimes I still prefer to buy pants in the women's section because fitting things is a thing. But I feel so uncomfortable when I go into fitting rooms because there's these old white guys I run into passing. I can just hear their thoughts as they're staring at me, like, are they really supposed to be here? Are they really supposed to be here? Is that a boy? Is that a girl? What is it? I can feel that and I can hear it in my head, even if they're not saying it out loud. But I fear they're gonna say, I fear, and I don't feel like I belong there. I don't feel like I belong anywhere, just for the sheer fact that we live in such a binary society. And I don't want to go into that, and I don't want to go into the reasons why binary is just a concept created by culture. I don't want to go into that because I'm not feeling like educating people today. From a human perspective, if there's only two genders to you, if you think Tumblr was just a place where we made up all these new genders to be cool, I don't know where you got that idea, because being transgender isn't a fun time most of the time. I never feel like I belong. I wouldn't have chosen this as a fun experiment. In fact, it was so not a choice for me that it took me so long to realize that I don't see myself as a woman or a man or any common conceptions of what those mean. So here I am, not knowing if this is going to be coherent or not, because I missed the point of what I'm really trying to say. I think it's disgusting that trans people have to feel ostracized because we don't perform gender correctly, that we don't belong in the right categories, that we're just from Tumblr making up gender as we go. I don't think it's right. And then on the other hand, some very selfish part of me is jealous of binary trans people, because at least they still belong to the binary. At least if they're passing as the gender that they identify as, that at least people will see them as that gender and call them by that gender. Whereas a non-binary trans person, there's no way we're going to be acknowledged for our gender. No way. Not in most public circles. And that is a very selfish part of me, because binary trans people experience just as much transphobia as non-binary trans people do. It's not a picnic either. But again, I have that little niggling thing in the back of my head that I wish that we weren't socialized in such a binary culture. I wish that people didn't see people and automatically sort them into woman or man, man or woman, male or female. What is it? Because it makes me really uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable when I shop. It makes me uncomfortable at school. It makes me uncomfortable when I'm interacting with someone and they call me girl or ma'am. And I know people aren't trying to offend me. Even when I tell them, I know that's just the way people are socialized, and that most people believe there are only two genders. And for a lot of people, it's not their fault. I mean, I still am rewriting my ideas about binary gender. I still have to catch myself when I say both genders and stuff like that. It's socialized. We all are socialized with binary gender because that's what we were taught. That's what our culture is. If we'd have been raised in any other culture where it wasn't a binary system of gender, we'd think about gender completely differently. And then that still wouldn't be our fault too, because that's the way we were socialized. It doesn't mean one way is wrong and one way is right. It just means that it's a different culture. And the problem is that if you stubbornly stick to your culture is right, your ideas about gender, about sexuality, about anything under the sun, apart from basic moral things like killing is wrong, like, we're not going to talk about that, but like, if you stick to stuff like that, assuming your culture is the correct one, you leave a lot of people out, a lot of people who belong in your culture, but you think they don't, because we don't perform culture correctly. We don't like visibly belong is the problem. I don't know. It was just such a mixture. I guess I subconsciously knew that I felt uncomfortable when I went clothes shopping, because I've only ever done it so far recently when the store is pretty empty. But we're coming up on Christmas. There's a bunch of heterosexual couples in there, like old women and men, and of course they're shopping for each other. Yes, that's Christmas. You give gifts and stuff, and like, obviously, but like, the more people around, like, the more I feel like I don't belong, and I can feel cis people looking at me and trying to peg me, trying to figure out if I really do belong in the men's changing room, which of course not. God, because I'm tired of feeling like who I am is wrong. I'm tired of like accommodating for cis people who don't want to try at least to acknowledge me, and I'm just tired. And I'm only like a year into this. Some people go through their whole lives constantly dealing with their identity and people not respecting it, and I don't know how they do it, because I'm already so tired. I'm so tired. Peace out, girl, boy, non-binary scouts.